Assalamu alaikum. Welcome everybody. ما جلست في المكتب يا أحمد. I'm sorry for that. Just right after the class العشرة، إذا تحتاج أقل من 10 دقائق وشوفهم مباشرة بعد الكلاس هذا إن شاء الله. أحمد I'm sorry for that. I was not able to do anything actually from 9 لتو. إن شاء الله. So let's get started, and as usual, any questions you raised from last class, any requests from last class, anything you want me to re-explain again, please? Okay, this way I might consider that everything is right and is clear, so we can keep going on. Can you remind me what was the last thing we stopped at last class? What was the topic we discussed? Still means still 8 to go. Still there are 8 absences so far. Regardless, in the cryptography we discussed some of the basics and the standardization, let's say, specificities behind the cryptography. We wish to define the message authentication code, the MAC, and we said that it is a scenario in which we secure the cipher. So we said that it is one of the contexts, this is the one, but we use it to secure what has been set as security standard. Means this cipher, the generation of the cipher, is the one first step behind the cryptography. Actually, when we talk about the cryptography, the first solution to say that yes, my data is, or my media is encrypted, or let's say the cryptography has been set, is that it has to be changed to a ciphertext. Good. We saw immediately after the generation of the cipher, when we defined the symmetric encryption, we defined that there are techniques via which we break this cipher into something that a human being can understand, can read and understand, which is the brute force and the cryptanalysis attacks, both of them. They are two very famous techniques we may utilize to break symmetric encryption scenarios. To secure this context and to guarantee that a symmetric encryption and a conventional encryption cryptography would happen securely, send and receiving without any alteration, and we guarantee that the scenario would be finished and fulfilled and terminated without any errors, without fail, we are setting the message authentication scenario. The message authentication scenario is the context via which we secure the cipher. See what I'm saying? Means here actually we are imposing a security over security, generating the cipher or cryptography is one of the security layers that we might impose on a media, whatever the media is. On this security layer, on top, we set up the second security layer, which is the MAC, the message authentication. We describe the scenarios how we set this message authentication. This is the graph via which we might see one of the usages of the message authentication. It's a scenario via which we generate a message, a MAC actually, message authentication code. It's a number, it's a serial, it's a value at the end of the day to be concatenated with the original media and then after submitted fully. Media and MAC, media and MAC submitted to the destination. This scenario of encryption, it would happen separately. So now you are not seeing cryptography. You are just seeing the generation of the MAC and the concatenation. However the cryptography scenario would happen, it won't fail. Just remember, this is a standard machine. The same scenario would happen actually, but in a reverse view. In a reverse view, are the reception machine. Regardless. Another context which is actually imposing another security layer on top of the cipher is the generation of the hash. We are seeing another context via which still we are not making in parallel hash or cipher generation. No, completely not. It's another context. Cipher is one of the first cryptography scenarios, means you set up your cipher generation plan or scenario, or, let's say design, architecture, whatever, and then after, you have to understand that it is weak, it is not secure enough to say that, yes, it guarantees to secure all the communications. No, because we saw some attacks and some vulnerable aspects that pushes us to set up a security on top of that. Generation of hashes is another context via which actually we see the cryptography in action, and it is a matter of generating a non-reversible by engineering or by whatever the context is. It is non-reversible value to be generated. The hash of a media is a non-reversible media. Also, it's a value that represents an ID to a media based on a standard. Clearly, a standard might be an algorithm actually, because we have a variety of algorithms that might be utilized to generate a hash from different kinds of medias. Using a specific standard, the value to be generated as a hash would be an ID. It won't be changed, never. If you generate it here in Oman or in Tunis or in the United States or wherever you go, since you are utilizing the same standard, so the same hash would be generated wherever you go. Whatever the platform utilizes, since you are using the same standard, the same hash would be generated at the end. Also, this hash, what is the story of this hash? It is another value to be utilized to authenticate the message at the reception phase in order to say that it is secured or not. We saw three use cases of this authentication scenario. What we encrypt, is it secured or not? What we transmit in the network here or here or here. We are just setting up a plan, 1, 2, 3 plans. One of them is we are not applying the three, but those are 3 different scenarios via which we apply a security on top of the cryptography context to authenticate the message at the reception to say that the cryptography has been finished successfully, and the received media or the serial received maybe encrypted data or the ciphertext received is intact, and it might be utilized by the receiver without any alteration, without any error, without any doubt that it is being modified or not. First context is by using the conventional encryption, or we talk about the symmetric encryption. It's exactly the scenario we applied and we defined that earlier this chapter, which is the usage of the unique public key between the sender and the receiver. Here we generate a hash starting from the media itself. This hash would be encrypted using a public key. Then this encrypted hash would be concatenated to the media. Submission, the same encrypted hash would be extracted but decrypted to receive the hash. Encrypted hash extracted, decrypted. The original hash is خلاص extracted. Then at the same time, in parallel, a new hash using the same standard would be calculated by the receiver, and this calculated hash would be compared with the extracted hash. If similar, so the process will continue and the message would be accepted. Otherwise, message would be if otherwise means it's different. Calculated hash and the received hash, extracted hash, they are different, so message would be rejected. Scenarios apply here and there also. ظهر الشابتر مستر. Who is not able also to see the chapter? Are you able to see the chapter, Rakia? Moza? Nihad, is the other slides visible to you? Because I'm sharing with you.
Yes.
Noof, can you just re-log in, Noof, please? Yes, so Noof المشكلة ممكن جهازك أو ممكن السيشن إذا داخل من الموبايل relog please. Just get out, get in again quickly بسرعة. ممكن الجهاز هو المشكلة. Just wait for Noof a little bit. Okay, great. She's here. Are you able to see the presentation, Noof? Jenny, okay, great. Good. So second scenario actually is via the usage of private and public keys, the same context as the first, conventional encryption, yet here we are utilizing public and private keys, two different keys here. It's not the same like here and here is the same key. No, here we're using two different keys. One is publicly seen in the network to be communicated over the network, and one is completely private. Only the, let's say here in this example, is the sender is utilizing this private key, only him. So this private is to encrypt the hash, to generate the encrypted hash. While the decryption would be happening using a public key. How it is matching, it's another context, because there will be a match between the public and the private key at the reception here in order to match the standard and in order to be able to extract the original hash correctly. Third is another context via which we see the same context of the conventional encryption, yet we are adding a salt, we are adding a secret value. It's a salt here, the S, you see the S here. It's another value to be added to the media, to the original media. Remember that the message we talk about here, the media we are presenting here, is not only a textual data. I'm using the word media, means all the types and modes of media and shapes of media, text, audio, and graphical context. All of them, they are a cushion of a message to be a message. We add to that media one value, and the value is to be met okay between the sender and the receiver. Both of them, they have to use the same salt, milah, the same S, the same secret code. It's a value, numerical, alphanumerical. It's another alphanumerical, letters and numbers, to be added to the original media. And then after, a hash would be generated from both. A hash to be generated from both the message, the media, and the salt. Both of them, see here the curly brace. It is gathering both. We generate a hash. The hash would be concatenated now only to the media. We take off the salt and we concatenate the media to the hash. Then we submit to the network. receiver, he will extract, first of all, he will extract the hash, put it apart. Then he will add and concatenate the salt from his side. Then another hash to be calculated. And finally to compare the extracted hash with the new calculated hash. Similar, perfect. Receive and admit the media and continue the process. Different, if they are different, the received and the calculated hash. If they are different, both of them, one from the other, so reject it, and an alert has to be resubmitted to the sender saying that the message would falsified and it has to be resubmitted again. Can you repeat what I was saying, please? Can you repeat what I was explaining? Are you able to repeat what I was explaining, please? Is it visible to you, and are you able to explain? Shall I continue? Just a second, please. I'm coming. So, sorry for the interruption. Yes, I was stopping the audio. I had an interruption. So, some of our students, they are graduating, and they came to say hello. Good. I was asking a question, but nobody has answered. Remember, actually, and I insist on that. I submit to you one question at the beginning of the class, and none of you are not the totality of you is submitted the answer. And across the explanation, I ask some questions. Um, your interaction is not that much excellent. So try to follow and answer the questions, please. Because remember the 10 marks we are awarded, they are for participation and let's say punctual attendance. One like the message authentication scenarios, we see three models here. If it's clear, absolutely that's great. If it's clear for you, those three models, number one, number two, number three, if they are clear, absolutely that's great. That's great. We continue. The hash generation has some requirements to start to do the hash, and also the hash has not only let's say requirement, but also has some specificities. We'll see them just in a while. Starting with the hash requirements, I presented to you that we need to use a standard, which is an algorithm mainly to be the engine for calculating the hash. And this standard actually it is to be generating a value from any kind and size of media. Means, can we generate a hash from a picture, photo? Yes, the answer is true. Yes, answer is true. Can we generate a hash from a video? Answer is yes, true. Can we generate a hash from only a notepad text, just one simple file, text file? Answer is yes. Can we generate from a video size 2 GB? The answer is yes. Can we generate a hash from a video 1 kilobyte? The answer also is yes. So whatever the media size and kind, the hash can be applied, or the hashing can be applied. The generated hash from this or those different types of media in size and in shape, the generated hashes, they are with fixed length, all of them. What does it mean? Means here actually, if we have a video with the size, let's say 2 GB, you are seeing what I'm typing? Are you seeing what I typed? What I'm highlighting in gold, let's say, or in orange? Are you with me? No, actually, maybe. Yes, mister. That's great. That's great. So, what I'm writing now, actually, let's say we have a video, it's media, but the size is 2 GB, 2 gigabytes, 2 gigs of bytes. Good. And also, we have another video. Let's say another video. Video 2. But the size is, for example, 2 KB, 2 kilobytes. A very big difference in size, very big. If we change this one to 2 kilobytes, we'll find this number: 2 multiplied 1024 multiplied 1024 to mega and then to kilo. The number is enormous. The number is enormous when we compare it to 2 kilobytes. To find kilobyte here, find kilobyte. سي 2 في 1024 في 1024 كيلو بايت مقارنة باثنين، فرق عملاق. It's big number. It's a big difference. Yeah, the extracted hash from the video number 1, this one, which is 2 GBs in size, and the extracted hash from this video 2, which is 2 kilobytes in hash in size, they have the same length, the hash, the H, they have the same length. It does not interfere with the size of the media. The size of the media does not have an impact on the hash size or the hash length. But the standard has an impact. It means the algorithm we use for making a hash, it has an impact. I delete. Good. The generation of a hash, it's a mathematical method to be happening, actually it's a process to be done. We represent a hash of X. X is the media in question to be utilized for generating the hash. Yes, the media, no more or less. The other requirement is that, and this is specificities at the same time, it's not a requirement only. It is something to recognize. When you say it's a requirement, does not mean that we have to fix it from the beginning. It is like that only. That the hash is a one-way property only. What does it mean? The hash generated, it cannot be reverted. It means we cannot utilize the hash to extract the original media. No, never. No computer can do that. There is no rule that makes the reverse engineering for a hash. It means a hash, if it is generated, خلاص, you use it like it is. You use it as a hash. You cannot use it as to revert it and to extract the original media. No, انسى الموضوع. And another property and another requirement also you have to recognize and admit is that the generated hash of an X never to be equal to the media. And the vice versa is correct also. Media never to be the hash. If a hash actually votes and let's say whatever 1, 2, 3 media, and another hash of another media votes a value, they never can be the same. They never can be the same. If the media they are different, here it is. If the media they are different, they can never be the same. Means if we have a media Y and the media X, the hashes they have to be completely different. This is for sure. The hashes they have to be completely different. Absolutely, it is like that. So this is said to be actually a weak collision resistance. Weak collision resistance. In the context of the other scenario is that the strong collision resistance is here. We see that the hashes they are the same in the context if the media they are the same, X and Y they are the same in value. The value of the X as a media equals the value of Y as a media. So in this condition, we might say that the hashes they are the same. The hashes they are the same. Media the same, so the hash is the same. Media different, so the hash is different. Very easy. Good. Standards or Khwarizmiyat algorithms we use to generate hashes, there are so many. So many. We start defining one of them actually. Before we do the study of the algorithms we use to create a hash or a group of hashes, also we talk about the weaknesses of the hash. Means when we say that the hash is not reversible, we cannot generate an original media from a hash, does not mean that it is secured. No, because the hash needs to be utilized for comparison. We have to compare the hash to another hash to say it's modified or not, and so on. So it has its usage, and thus there is a weak point, and it can be explored. The same attack scenarios for the cryptography we saw at the beginning, the cryptanalysis and the brute force attack. Both of them they are still to be utilized in order to explore the weakness of a hash somehow, because we might utilize those standards for a personal perspective, and we might generate our own hashes, and we compare. It is a context of time only. It is a context of time only. Means it might happen to generate a hash to be equal to a hash used by a financial organization in just a few seconds. At the same time, we might fall to generate a hash that's similar to a MAC generated by a financial company, but we need weeks or maybe months or maybe years. So it is a context of time. But at the end of the day, we have some leakage and we have a vulnerable part in this scenario that it might be explored. So again, we cannot say that if we apply the hash, everything is secured now. No, still, we might generate hashes to compare. Here, the time that blocks the attackers is the matter of the time. Means the hash to say that it is secured fully, we cannot. But can the time block attackers from let's say exploring the MAC generated using the hash? Yes, absolutely yes. Why? Because it is not easy to stand and wait for an algorithm to work for 1 year, for example. 1 year, I mean 12 months, 365 days, and the computer is running to find, let's say, a hash. It's not easy to make an attacker to wait for this time. No. So this way, the hash might succeed. Standard hashing actually algorithm is one of the very famous standard hashing algorithm is one of the very famous, let's say, hashing algorithms utilized in generating hashes. It is to encrypt and finalize the cryptography scenario. There are so many models from this SHA based on the key to be utilized, the key size we talk. Remember that the key is just a value to be utilized in memory and to be utilized for finalizing the encryption scenario or the decryption scenario. And this value, it has a size in memory. So based on the key size, we are talking about a SHA version. The SHA algorithm is one of the hash generation standardization tools or standardized tools. There are so many keys, let's say, sizes. Up to date, actually, the 2048 is not. It has not been break so far, but it is under process. Small keys like this one or this one or this one, they are actually very weak and they are already broken by attackers. Means if you are utilizing in a company this SHA for generation of hashes, you do not have to use such keys because they are small and weak enough to be broken on your plane. Yet those are models that you can use to generate a hash. Yes, you can generate hash using those keys. But are they strong enough? No, completely not. Come back just one step before I continue. 512 is the key size, 512 bytes. 512 bytes is the key size. And the others, the other numbers also, they are key sizes also. Good. We come back. We see two scenarios here with two scenarios here. Just I present to you the two scenarios via which we see two different security perspectives. We are talking about conventional encryption. So sorry, here both of them, they are not conventional encryption because we are using public-private, but we're talking about two security perspectives. Full stop. The security perspectives, they are the confidentiality and the authentication. Confidentiality, C from the CIA triad. We saw the beginning, and we saw computer security, digital security, information assurance and security cause. And the authentication, it's one of the security terminologies that has to be actually discussed whenever you set up a security solution. Authentication, which is the proven of your identity, if you are the one in question. Yes, what is this context here actually? The context of the encryption, it has to guarantee the confidentiality. The encryption, it has to guarantee the confidentiality. In the sense of, when we say that we are going to encrypt, it is a matter of making the thing actually private, and the privacy, it has to be, let's say, saved. Somehow you have to understand it this way. My media is a text, is an exam, for example, is a transcript of a student, is a list of marks of students, or something like that. So the confidentiality, by setting up the encryption, is guaranteed. We're going to send to Alice, see Alice here, one media, plain text, whatever. When we encrypt using the key specific to Alice, it has to be sent and decrypted and seen only by Alice's computer. Public key. We might have so many in a one single machine. But private key, each is dedicated to a specific customer. I repeat. In this scenario, we are guaranteeing the confidentiality through one encryption. And this confidentiality and encryption scenario, it is happening using two different keys, one public and one private. It's not the symmetric encryption. It is not the conventional encryption. Here it is the asymmetric encryption, and we see that in a while. It is not symmetric, it is not conventional. Full stop. Public and private. It is asymmetric. And how? Because a machine to send or to submit a media using the encryption, it has to use a public key. This is the public key. And the receiver, to understand what is the ciphertext and extract the original plain text, here it is, it has to use a private key. Public, private. Is there any relationship? Absolutely true. Why? Because you at home, you may utilize so many secured websites, and each website has his own public key. How your computer will not fail in using key number 1 from site number 1 inside the site number 2? Because there is a relationship in between the public and the private. The receiver will identify the sent public key to match it with a private key. Whatever you send, the receiver will match the received public with a locally stored private key. Then after he will make the decryption. If the sender uses, as per this example, the Alice key, Alice public key, so the receiver will recognize the received public key. See the public here, the public here. The public key received here. The receiver will locally define and identify the relationship between this received public with a local private. He will find it. He will know that it is for Alice, and he will decrypt to extract the original plain text from the transmitted and received ciphertext. The same context here actually to be applied, but for the scenario of authentication. Authentication here means you have to prove your ID whenever you submit, let's say, an encrypted context. Earlier we discussed that the submitted context is using a public key, and the public key, the receiver will match the public key with a private key. Here, the sender, the receiver is using only a private key, one private for everybody. But in this context, for everybody, yes, but for this context, he's sending to Bob only. He's encrypting a media for the user, which is Bob. So here, it would be sent with a private key, yes. The receiver has to authenticate that this Bob is the sender. How? It is the authentication scenario. And after that, once authenticated, he will recognize the Bob key, and then he will utilize the public key of Bob only. The public key of Bob only to extract the original text, the plain text from the cipher. Any questions, please? Any questions, please? No. I consider this a confirmation that it is clear. Great. Good. We keep going on. When you talk about actually conventional encryption, it is one key to be utilized from both sides. Conventional encryption or the symmetric encryption. It is one key to be utilized. But when we talk about here, as per the authentication and the, let's say, the confidentiality scenario, we are using two different keys, one public and one private. And in the two scenarios here and the confidentiality and the authentication, both of them, we are seeing that the two keys, the public and the private, they have a relationship one to the other. Other than that, there will be no possibility to decrypt the received media, the received cipher. This relationship it's an easy way to do, which is because actually when one of the service provider generates the keys, he will make the match originally, and he will generate a group of pairs, each private with the public, each private with the public, and so on. So it's a context of generation of pairs. The public keys, they are to be exposed and submitted publicly through the public media. The private key is only to be kept inside the receiver machine, the service provider. And then after, there will be a matching in between, public and private. Because attackers, if they can get the public, it is not easy. It is not easy to recognize what is the private. They can catch the public, yes, but it is not easy to get the private. When we say it's not easy, it's almost not possible to detect what is the private. And thus it will not be able, actually it will not be feasible, it will not be actually one of the easy steps to recover what is the original text from the cipher, from the captured cipher. Thus here we see actually the benefit of pairs of keys, public and private. And we cannot swap the role of each of them, public to private and private to public. No, each it has his own role. Each of the keys has his own roles. Questions, please? Do you have any questions to ask? Good. Still in the standards, like we talked about the SHA standard hashing algorithm, standardization hashing algorithm, with its different versions. Still we talk about other standards, but here to generate keys and to generate the pairs of keys. The RSA, it's one of the standardized, let's say, algorithms. It refers to the developers' names. RSA, they are names of users, names of people, of men. 3 men, they at the year 1977, they generated this standard. And because of the invention, they named this standard to their names. RSA. RSA, Raybas, Chemi, other men, they are Russian developers. They are from Russia, I believe. It is one of the very successful standards, and it is up to date today. Up to today, it is still useful, and it is still up to today applicable in so many different applications.
السلام عليكم أستاذ مراد.
هلا.
حياك الله. تو الكوز اللي يكون يوم الثلاثاء يغطي شابتر 1 ولا معها الجزء هذا من شابتر 2؟
بما فيه إلى اليوم.
زين نريد ننزل 3 شباتر له أستاذ مراد لو تسمح يعني.
شابتر 1 بنزله، شابتر 1 بنزله، شابتر 2 لا.
لا حتى تنزلنا بس هذا الجزء اللي يدخل في الكوز ما كامل يعني.
الكلام جميل جدا، تم الكلام، تم الكلام.
ايوه اللي بعدين خلاص حال وقت ثاني.
جميل جميل.
شكرا شكرا استاذ.
تم. Okay, I'm gonna stop here حتى ما أطول الكلام. I'm gonna stop at this level. We continue next class. So if you hear your name, please type yes. Please, if you hear your name, type yes.